The Dutch style aquascape is one of the oldest styles of the planted aquarium in the hobby. Founded in the 1930s in the Netherlands, the Dutch style uses some pretty strict rules to create something that looks almost akin to an aquatic garden. So in today's video, we're going to show you how to create a Dutch style inspired tank that will use the essence of the Dutch rules, but won't follow each and every one strictly. So if you've ever been interested in how to create a Dutch style aquarium, this video is absolutely perfect for you. And if you like this type of content, go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to stay up to date. Now let's get started. So as you've probably heard, Dutch style aquariums follow some pretty strict rules and they can get very granular, and you're more than welcome to follow each and every one of those. But for today's build, we've distilled them down to the basics of what we consider to be the heart of a Dutch layout. And that's using a variety of stem plants that don't appear in more than one place, having very distinctive groupings of plants that have some space between them, and using a variety of color, texture, and leaf shape. In addition to that, you generally want to plant at least 70% of the soil so that the tank is primarily covered with plants, and you don't want to use too many red plants. You want some nice contrast, and you want the majority to be green and other colors. So in order to get this UNS 90S set up for the Dutch scape, we're first going to add a nice background. We're working with the beautiful UNS Atmos aquarium light background. This background is fully customizable. You can set it to whatever color you like. You can adjust the dimness, and it'll make your plants really pop. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a space between the bottom of the tank and the bottom of the Atmos. That's because this is the 90L Atmos. We're working with the UNS 90S glass, so we're gonna fill that gap with soil. But before we put down the soil, we're gonna be working with a lot of heavy nutrient feeding plants. So we're putting down a layer of Aquarium plant tabs. These are gonna give the plants all the nutrients they need to really thrive. Next up, we add our soil. We're working with 3 10-liter bags of the UNS Contra soil in black, extra fine granule, and we slope that slightly toward the back for that enhanced depth. Between the quality soil, the plant tabs, and water column dosing, we're really giving the plants all the nutrients they need to display vibrant, beautiful colors that are really key to a Dutch layout. Because we're using over a dozen plants in this layout, the organization is going to be really key, and it can be kind of easy to lose track of what goes where. So here's a pro tip. You can use bamboo skewers that you can pick up at a grocery store or your local convenience store and kind of map things out. So we break these apart and lay them down into sections to create a rough planting map. And then we'll plant clockwise, starting from the front left corner of the aquarium. First up, going into the aquarium is one of the all-time classic red plants, Alternanthera Reinekii Mini. This is a beautiful plant that even under low to medium lighting still displays beautiful reds. Under high lighting, you'll get brilliant ruby reds, and it's going to provide some of the beautiful red accent in this tank. It can be trimmed and kept low, or it can be allowed to grow quite high as it is a stem plant. Next up, we add Hygrophila penitifida. Not only does it provide color contrast with its green leaves, but the serrated leaves are going to contrast really nicely to those smoother ovular AR mini leaves. And behind that, we plant some more contrast, Alternanthera rosenervig. These leaves are extremely unique and have a really cool look to them. Additionally, the leaves are on the larger size, so we're further adding to that contrast that makes the Dutch style layout look so unique. Because this planting takes a while, since there's so many plants and it's a fairly big footprint, it's really important to spray down your plants between sections. This will keep the plants moist under that high light so they do okay and you can take your time. In the back left corner of the tank, we plant Bacopa Munieri. This is a beautiful stem plant and is a fairly slow grower, but it grows fairly high and is very easy, and it even does well under low light, so it'll absolutely thrive under the high lighting of this aquarium. Next, we plant Nomophila stricta. This is another green plant, however the leaves are much larger and broader than the Bacopa, so again we're adding to that contrast and creating little distinct groups here. Next up comes one of the coolest plants in this layout, Cryptocorin retrospiralis. These leaves are really unique. They're long and slim and kind of spiral, hence the name, and the color is more of that brownish darker green, so it's going to contrast really nicely next to that Bacopa. And now we're going to add some some more red, we've got Ammonia gracilis going into the right of the crypts. Ammonias can be difficult, so you want to make sure to give them lots of CO2, high lighting, and proper nutrients. The higher your light, the redder they'll be. And then in the back right corner of the tank is an all-time classic stem plant, Rotala indica green. Once this plant's established, it can be fairly high maintenance if you want to keep your tank nice and organized and well trimmed, which for a Dutch you really should. So just be aware, if you're working with Rotala and you want that kind of neat hedge-like look, you are going to have to trim every few weeks. However, you're welcome to let it grow out like a jungle, but that doesn't really work for a Dutch style aquascape. In front of the Rotala, we plant Ammonia senegalensis. Again, this is another beautiful red plant that contrasts with its leaf shape and its color, and that's going to be the last of the reds. So we may have used a little bit too much red for your typical Dutch aquarium, but again, it's okay to bend the rules or follow each and every one strictly. It just depends on what you want to do in your layout, and we're just a huge fan of reds. So we'll break a few more rules coming up, but so far we've followed the basics of the Dutch layout. In the very front right of the tank goes Storgin repens, an all-time classic. It's a stem plant. It can be trimmed frequently to be kept short, or it can be allowed to grow quite tall. So with proper trimming technique, there's a lot you can do to shape it and create really nice little groupings. So it's an absolutely perfect plant for a Dutch layout and has a bright green color. Next to that, we plant Lobelia cardinalis. Lobelia cardinalis is one of those plants that looks totally different in its immersed form versus its underwater submerged form. So this plant, of course, came in the immersed out of water form. So the leaves right now look very big and have a purple tinge. Underwater, the growth will be much tighter and will sort of green up as the plant develops. And then second to last, we plant Hemianthus micranthomoides, aka pearlweed. This is a very fast growing stem plant that can be allowed to grow wild. It can carpet an entire tank if you let it, or it can be trimmed regularly and tightly and maintained. So again, a perfect stem plant for this tank. Just be aware, if you are working with it and you want to keep it nice and organized, you're going to have to be on top of your trimming. And finally, because we're Buce Plant, we got to break one more rule. We got to add some Bucephalandra. So you don't typically see Bucephalandra in a Dutch style aquascape, especially because the plant is fairly new to the hobby relative to history, but we just had to add a variety. So we're adding 3 different kinds. We're adding Buce tricolor velvet, we're adding Buce black pearl, and we're adding Buce ketagang round. So you don't want to plant the rhizome into the substrate. So what we've done is we've super glued it onto some tiny little rocks, and then you can just wedge the rock into the soil. And once the plant grows out and the tank fills in a bit with plants, you won't even see that rock anymore. With our planting completed, it's time to fill up the aquarium with water, sit back, and enjoy what we've created. So while it doesn't really look like much right now, in a few months' time, this tank will be completely grown out and organized and well trimmed, and will resemble a beautifully curated underwater garden of plant groupings. So stay tuned for those future videos where we'll showcase the progress and we'll cover trimming techniques. But first, let's talk a little bit about the tech we're using. We're filtering this aquarium with the UNS Delta filter, and we're providing our CO2 using the UNS Mini Pro regulator on a UNS cylinder. In addition to having quality soil with quality nutrients, you really want to inject CO2 into a Dutch aquarium for the best results. So we're injecting it at a fairly high rate. Equally important is lighting. So we're working with the Chihiros RGB Vivid 2. This light is fully customizable using an app that you can download on your phone, and you can really customize the spectrum and the intensity, as well as program when the light turns on and turns off. So it's perfect for this layout. And finally, for liquid nutrients, we are dosing UNS Plant Food Max. For the first few weeks, we'll dose it at a half dose, and then as things develop and the plants adapt to their underwater form and root, we'll increase that dose to the full dose. In the next few weeks, we're going to be adding some fish. Thank you so much for watching. As usual, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell to stay up to date. We'll catch you next time. Now get out there and create something beautiful.